Electricity costs are a fixed expense for most households. They arrive monthly, they tend to increase over time, and there is generally little the average person can do to influence the amount. Some people respond by monitoring usage more carefully, turning off lights, adjusting thermostats, running appliances at off-peak hours. These habits can reduce consumption at the margins, but they require ongoing attention. The savings are incremental. The effort is continuous. Others look at larger structural changes. Solar panel installations, for example, can reduce dependence on the grid significantly, but they typically cost between $10,000 and $20,000 installed. They require roof assessments, permits, professional contractors, and utility coordination. The timeline from decision to operation can be several months. Maintenance, weather exposure, and panel degradation are variables that carry forward for years. Wind-based systems have similar logistical weight. Battery storage adds another layer of cost and complexity. For most people, the pattern ends there. Either you accept the ongoing dependency or you commit to a large, slow, and expensive transition. But there's a less obvious gap in between those two extremes, and most people don't notice it until the system they rely on stops behaving the way they expect. Not necessarily a full outage, not a dramatic failure, just small inconsistencies. Higher costs without clear explanation, less control than it feels like you should have. A system that works until it doesn't in the way you assumed. That's usually the point where the question changes, not how to optimize the system, but whether there's a way to step partially outside of it without needing a full replacement. That is the space this product occupies. The Energy Revolution system is a digital information product. It is sold and delivered online. There is no physical shipment. After purchase, the buyer receives access to a set of downloadable documents. The package includes several components. There is a main manual. There are illustrated schematics, diagrams showing how components relate to one another spatially. There is a parts list which functions as a shopping reference, and there are step-by-step written instructions intended to guide the build process from beginning to end. The product is conceptually a blueprint set. Its purpose is to give the reader enough information to source materials independently and assemble a small electrical device at home. The device is described as a coil-based generator, loosely attributed to electrical engineering concepts associated with Nikola Tesla's patent work from the 1890s. The documents are not an academic or technical reference. They are written to be accessible to someone with no prior background in electrical engineering. The language and structure are oriented toward the general consumer rather than the specialist. The typical usage pattern begins with reading. The stated reading time is approximately 1 hour. During this phase, the buyer works through the manual and schematics to understand what the device is, what parts it requires, and how those parts fit together. After reading, the next step is sourcing materials. The parts list directs the buyer to standard electronics retailers, shops like Home Depot or general hardware and electronics stores. The stated cost for a small-scale version of the device is between $70 and $100 in components. A larger version is described as costing up to $210. Assembly follows material sourcing. The stated build time is under 2 hours for a basic unit. No specialized tools are described as necessary. No electrical credentials are mentioned as required. Once assembled, the device is described as low maintenance. The interaction pattern after initial build is minimal, periodic checks rather than regular engagement. There is no ongoing subscription, no follow-up content, and no program to continue. The product is used once, in the sense that the reading and building happen as a single contained project. After that, the relationship with the product effectively ends. The buyer either has a functioning device or they do not. The environment for use is domestic, a home setting with access to a basement, yard, or enclosed space where the device can be placed. No outdoor infrastructure or professional installation is required. The format suits someone who is comfortable working from written instructions independently. A person who can follow a recipe, assemble flat-pack furniture, or work through a technical manual without needing real-time guidance would find the interaction model familiar. It also suits someone with a preference for contained, one-time projects rather than ongoing programs. The product does not ask for repeated engagement. It delivers its information once and leaves the user to act on it. People who are comfortable visiting a hardware or electronics store, selecting specific components, and working with basic materials at home are in the expected user profile for this format. On the other side, someone who needs demonstration rather than written instruction, who learns more readily from watching than reading, would find this format limiting. There is no video component. The schematics are illustrated, but the primary medium is text. Someone looking for technical depth, peer review, or engineering validation would also find this format insufficient. The product is not positioned as a technical reference. It does not cite independent testing. It does not interface with utility systems or involve professional oversight. For that type of buyer, the format itself is the limitation, not a matter of the product being wrong, but of the depth of information being lower than what a technically oriented person would typically require before committing to a build. On an effort spectrum, this product sits at the low end of the entry barrier. The financial commitment is under $50 for the document package. The time commitment for reading is 1 hour. The build is described as completable in an afternoon. Compared to a solar installation, the investment is different by an order of magnitude, in cost, in time, and in the coordination required. A solar system involves multiple parties, permits, and weeks or months. This product involves one buyer, one set of documents, and a single afternoon. What is traded in that simplicity is depth, verification, and scalability. Solar systems are independently tested, professionally installed, and carry performance warranties. They integrate with utility grids. They are regulated and documented. A document-based DIY guide carries none of those structural assurances. It is a set of instructions. And for most people, that's exactly why they ignore options like this. Not because they've tested them, but because they assume anything this simple can't be worth considering. In many cases, that assumption is correct, but not always. And that edge case, where a lower barrier system still produces a usable result, is usually where these types of products become relevant, not as a full replacement, not as a guaranteed solution, but as something that exists in a space most people don't seriously evaluate until they have a reason to. That is the space the product occupies, and that is where the comparison ends. That is the space the product occupies, and that is where the comparison ends. Most people never go beyond this point, but if you want to see what this actually looks like when someone follows it step by step, what's involved, what it takes, and how it's put together in practice, there's a full breakdown linked in the description.